Seems legit. Laser.
Welcome back, Legitimates. Let's make a rotating stand for our market stalls. This is all pretty easy, but I'm going to show you all the steps. So there is a link in the description to a website that will create a box for you, and then you just make it whatever size you want. I picked something fairly large. My laser does 50 by 30 centimeters. So I could have made it a bit taller and a bit wider, but we also need to be conscious of the space that we're using. So my cut settings are 100% power, 9 speed, and 2 passes. I always like to do 2 passes. I find that one, you might still have bits that don't quite cut because MDF board is a fickle thing. So this is MDF board, but you can also use a ply board. It'll just have a bit of a grain, like a wood grain to it. And so we need to cut 4 of those, and then the top and the bottom. I'm just going to show you the one. And then we need to glue it together. So I am using Gorilla Wood Glue because it is my favorite. I find it's quite strong. And then you need to put the glue on all of the teeth and then join it together. I'm also adding a layer of glue on the inside seam just to make sure it's really, really strong. I don't want this to fall apart. It would be very inconvenient to my life. So lots of glue. And this does take a while, so I did speed it up. And then we're going to let that dry, and we're going to go outside and make the base for the rotating part. So this is a piece of wood I had from Bunnings ages ago. I'm basically just making it a square because it's wide enough. If you want to, you can make the bases a bit wider. It gives it probably more stability, but what I'm putting on here is not heavy, so it doesn't matter. And I only have a drop saw, so I cut one half and then flipped it over, lined it up, and did the other side. This is called a router, and it's sitting in a table. So this is going to give us like a nice angle on the bottom piece. You can skip this 100%, but I think it makes it look a bit more fancy, and that's why I'm doing it. So we're going to just do all 4 sides. Technically, we're routing the top, but when you do it, you put the piece upside down. So if you're using a wood grain and you're not going to paint it, oops, the table is not screwed down, and that's why it moved, such as life. But you can see here we've got like a nice edge. It is a little bit wonky there, so I'm going to do it again. We're just going to fix up that edge. You're supposed to have the table, that black thing is supposed to sit so you can run the wood along it. I find that it doesn't work as well for me. So just make sure that your edges are all straight and fabulous, and then we're going to paint it. This is the paint I had for something else. You can see it's a bit blech, so I'm going to shake it up and hopefully it'll work. It does work, but it is a bit thick. So this will be the last time I get to use this paint. I think it's done. You could probably add paint thinner or something, but whatever. I do 2 coats of this. I'm just showing you the one. And then we're also going to paint most of the base piece that we're going to put on. It'll be really hard to paint later, so you're better off to do it now. Now, these are called Lazy Susans, and it was about $5 from Bunnings. I've probably sped this up too much, but basically I'm trying to line it up so it's in the middle. So we're using rulers to kind of rule a box. You won't see this, it's on the inside. And then I can center it inside those and mark the holes. Now you can't just screw it on. We're going to use bolts because this is what I found to be the easiest. And then we're going to drill the holes. So you can see I've marked it all up. It's in the middle. These are the bolts and the nuts. So they're going to stick up from the bottom and then screw this on. And then at the end, we will glue the other part that we made on. So you glue the sides and the top, and we leave the bottom. I'm going to just drill the holes with a drill. I put my elbow on it to hold it in place. I'm also not super worried about my bench top, so I have drilled a little bit into that. It's fine. You can also lean on a bit of wood, however you want to do it. This is a really bad angle. I'm really sorry about that. I didn't realize when I was doing it that you can't really see what I'm actually doing. But I basically found a drill bit that was slightly bigger than the bolts and have drilled the 4 holes to sit it into the base. And then we need to also then attach the Lazy Susan to the other one in the middle. So there's all my holes. Wipe off the dust. We don't need that around. And so then this will sit over the holes. So you're going to take the nuts and bolts. Of course, I dropped something. And we're going to put it up through the holes. And I think these are the wrong size. So I need to go and get ones that are the right size. That was another trip to Bunnings in there. That was my fault. I should have checked. So what we want to do is we want to line this up in the center as well. And then you can twist it so that you can get to all the holes and then screw it into your base. That's pretty much as simple as it is. I do, however, accidentally put it on upside down. So the two halves obviously are not perfectly even with the bolts. So these are the ones that I got to fit in there. It was a trip to Bunnings, but they only cost like $4 or $5. Still worth it. So we're going to put them up through the 4 holes before we screw the base on, because otherwise we won't be able to get them in there. So we pop all of these in, and then we're going to line up the base, the Lazy Susan part onto the base, and screw it down. So you put the bolts in first, and that way we'll be able to attach the other side easily. I am also winging this. I'd never made one before, so we're just hoping for the best. So you can also just twist it so it's even. It locks them all in mostly. They do get a bit wonky, but that's okay. And so then you need to line it up in the center and screw everything down. So I've just got little screws. It doesn't really matter what color they are. You won't see them, but you want to just make sure that they're not going to go all the way through the wood. So whatever that looks like for you, I got little black ones because I needed them for other stuff in the future. So I just got a packet and we're good to go. So now we're going to screw all of these down. You can mark the holes, try and hold it in place. I dropped it because, again, I always drop everything. Making pilot holes would also possibly be easier if you wanted to put the drill bit in and then drill like partial hole and then finish doing it, because these are not really self-drilling screws. I'm just making it do that because at some point we need to realize that I don't need to own everything ever. So we screw this in. It does take a little bit, and I'm kind of revving it like I do my sewing machine. So rather than just putting all the thing, I'm kind of like drilling a little bit and then releasing just to make sure it's going to not slip. I always like to do the opposite side first. This is from when my dad taught me to take on and off a wheel from a tire. You kind of do opposite. You don't just go around. It will help even the pressure, which is probably irrelevant. But now the other 2 holes, it won't shift and go crooked. So I just apply that logic here. And again, I'm really sorry for the bad angle. I did not realize that we were looking at the butt of the drill. So screw all 4 of those in, and then we're going to take our base piece and it will go on top. So this is the only part that I haven't really sped up in the video. So you can see the 4 holes, and then they should line up with these screws. Bolts, nuts and bolts. So you can see here, you kind of have to get them to sit straight. And I think it's about here that I realized that I did the wrong half screwed into the bottom. It is absolutely a thing that I didn't really take into consideration, which is why I'm telling you to do it. So you can see that they're not coming through easily, and it really frustrates me. And I can't understand why, but it turns out it's because I used the wrong half to screw into the base. So I will need to flip that and fix it. Let's speed up the part where I then unscrew everything, take everything out, make sure I've then got the right sides, and do that whole process again. But again, I've sped it up because you've just watched me do it. And I still do the opposite, and it just means that there'll be extra holes in the base, but nobody cares. And you won't see them because this will take over. So you can see now that you just sit this on, and then we put the nuts onto the bolts, and I loosely put them on to begin with, and then once all 4 are lined up, I'm going to tighten them so that they're nice and tight. I'm using a shifter because it's sometimes just easier than getting the right spanner. So now you can see that that's all done, and so now we just need to do that same thing where we're going to put glue on the base and glue it all together, and then we just sit the base on top and let it dry. You can also put it on sideways. You can see it is being a bit stubborn. But they all do click together. You just got to have patience, which is something I lack. And then we're going to paint it all. So again, we're using that same paint. I'm doing a nice light coat because it is, again, quite thick. There is probably a way to fix the paint. I did think about adding water, but then I thought maybe that'll wreck it, so I'm just suffering through. So now that we've got that on, we need to grab all the things we're going to line up. So I have all of these, and I want to go a little bit down from the top, and then I'm just going to line up all the hooks and take this out of the packaging so that I can line them up appropriately. I want to fit as much as I can on this because market space is always very, very limited. And then I'm using a very small drill bit in my Dremel to put these in. Now, screwing this many screws in absolutely hurts my hands. It was a little bit of a nightmare. And I also decided to put just a drop of glue just for safety reasons. I don't want them to accidentally fall out. I don't want them to shift around and make the hole bigger. So I thought maybe just a drop of glue will help. So there's my front line. So we only do the top line, and then I'm going to take a ruler to work out how far down I want the next row to be. So I've moved that to the edge just so I can see better. I do need the bigger ruler because 2 inches isn't quite enough. So you just measure, make sure you've got a little bit of hanging space between them so that it's not going to knock. You can see here I'm trying to make sure and see how many I'll get. So then we're just going to, with a pencil or something erasable, I'm going to draw up the grid where I want everything to go, and then I will drill all of those holes with my Dremel and a small drill bit. You can absolutely just use your normal drill. It's just that was so small, the small drill wouldn't, the normal drill wouldn't hold it. That is magic eraser and some water to get rid of all of the pencil marks because we don't need to see that. And you can see here I am attempting to screw in the hooks with my drill. It somewhat worked, but you still have to kind of start them off and then you grab onto it and twist them. It is a little bit awkward, but my hands were getting really sore, so I decided to do it this way. But that's it really. Fill it up and you are good to go. So I hope this has been inspirational, and I will see you all in the next video. Please don't forget to like this video if it was helpful, and make sure you've subscribed to my channel. Okay then, bye-bye!